Now we move to the industry analysis tools in your business strategies. When we were looking into the first part, it was on aspects from legislation that may require of you to identify. Now we are looking into aspects under business strategies that may allow you, or the examiner might want you to identify them from the scenario, like the industry analysis tools, where you have SWOT analysis, which analyzes micro. You have POTUS 5, which analyzes the market, and PESTEL elements or factors, which will analyze what? The macro. So when you look into the POTUS 5 forces, you might be required there to identify them from the scenario. Then you have the PESTEL factors or elements, which you might be required also to identify them from the scenario. Let's name our POTUS 5 forces model. The first one is the power of the buyer, then the power of the competitor or competitive rivalry, and then the threat of substitute or substitutes. Then another one is the threat or barrier of new entrants to the market. Then you have the power of the supplier. So when you look into this content, the business will be in the middle, and the business will be assessing its power between the buyer, between the competitor, and between the supplier. And it will also look into the threat of a substitute product to say, what is the threat that is held by the substitute product? Can it substitute the business product that is being sold? Then you also look into the threat or barrier of new entrants to the market to say, is there a new business that can easily start selling what your business or what the business might be selling? So that is your threat there to the market. Now, let us look into this scenario again, which is a statement-based scenario. Again, our action verb is identify. So this might be required of you to identify. You might be required to identify the forces of POTUS 5 model that are applied or applicable to Louisa's hair salon in each statement below. 2.5.1 says, Lwazi opened a new hair salon across the street offering services at a lower price than Louisa's hair salon. So what are we seeing here? Lwazi opened a new hair salon across the street offering the same what? Services at a lower price than Louisa's hair salon. Do not rush to give your answer, because this might look like is your threat or barrier of new entrants, because you might say it means it's easy to start a salon. But when you look into the second statement, which is 2.5.2, it says Louisa's hair salon is highly profitable. And because the salon is highly profitable, look at what happens in the other part of the sentence. It says, and attract many new entrepreneurs to enter this market. To enter this market. So what is attracting the new entrepreneurs to enter is the high profitability. And because there are no barriers, when Louisa is analyzing using the POTUS 5, Louisa sees that there's no barrier, there's nothing stopping another entrepreneur from starting the same business she already has, which is a salon in this regard. So we say because they are highly attracted by what? The profitability, then many entrepreneurs enter this market. When we say enter this market, we are saying they are starting. They are basically starting also a hair salon. So we are therefore saying the POTUS 5 force that is applicable to 2.5.2 should be barriers to enter the market. There are no barriers. There are no threats. It's easy to start a hair salon because it is profitable. But when you look into Lwazi opening a new hair salon across the street, offering, Lwazi is nearer Louisa's hair salon, and Lwazi is offering the same services at the lower price. Therefore, Lwazi is a competitor to Louisa's hair salon. So here we would say the answer is the power of the competitor but here we say barriers. We say here we are talking about barriers. Let's check if I'm correct. Yes. Power of the competitor, but on the other one, threat of new entrants into the market. There's no threat. Now, let us look into explaining how to apply Potter's 5 forces if a direct question is to come. This is how you should go about explaining. Start by naming the Potter's 5 force. We have the power of the supplier here. What are we saying? As a business, in this regard, we're talking about Louisa's hair salon. Louisa would have to analyze or apply Potter's 5 by doing the following. Louisa will have to check the power of the supplier. In doing what? The power of the supplier by checking or assessing the power of the supplier in influencing the price. That's number one. Number two, Louisa will have to check what? Suppliers that deliver high quality products may have power over the business. So this is to say, if a supplier who is supplying your business has a quality product or quality raw material, they might be in a position to have more power than your business, because without their quality raw material, you are not able to produce a quality product as well. So they have more power because of that. Hence we say here, as a business, when you apply Potter's 5, you are checking to say you are assessing the power of the suppliers in influencing the price. Then we also look into the power of the buyers. Here with the power of the buyer, what are you doing? You assess how easy it is for suppliers or customers to drive down the prices. So the business here is saying, yes, we are the business, we are offering a certain service or product, but then what are we doing? We are assessing to say, can the buyer drive down the price? That's one. Number two, also, it says here, buyers buying in bulk can bargain for prices in their favor. Meaning, if a buyer buys in bulk, they might get a discount because you don't want to lose those buyers who come and buy in bulk. And again, it says you are assessing how easy it is for buyers or customers to drive down the price. So basically, it is when a business is scanning the environment. They are scanning using Potter's 5 to say, okay, between my business and this customer, who has power? My customers have power because they buy in bulk. And if they buy in bulk, I give them discounts. They drive down the prices. Then you also check the power of the supply, and you say, with the power of the supplier, you assess the power of the supplier in influencing the prices. So suppliers that deliver high quality products may have more power. So you say, okay, because this supplier has a quality product, I cannot control this. The supplier has more power than me because they are offering quality products. Then another aspect is power of competitor or competitive rivalry. So in this regard, the business also, I am selling this product which is sold by another business who is competing with me because we are competing for the same customer. So you are saying here, you are checking as a business to say, if the competitor has a unique product or service, then they will have greater power because they are having a unique product. You say, okay, my customers, I will not be able to attract new customers because my product might not be as unique as that one of the competitor. Another one is a business with many competitors in the same market has a very little power in that market because there's so many competition, meaning you are selling, and as part of a business that is selling in that marketplace, there's also 20 other businesses that are selling what you are selling, meaning you have little power to say you are in control because the information on what is being sold is easy to find. Then we also look into the threat of substitution or substitutes. Here we are saying now, the business here will analyze the substitute product. Let's say the business that you are owning is selling tea. So your business will have to check the substitute product, which is coffee, to say now, between my product, which is tea, and coffee, can tea easily substitute the coffee, or can the coffee easily substitute the tea? So if the business's product can easily be substituted, it weakens the power of the business in the market. So we are basically saying your business is selling tea. If your product, which is tea, can easily be substituted by coffee, then it means the product you are selling is weak in the market. Then another one is that get information on whether the seller of the substitute product, in this regard, the seller of coffee, to say, is the seller of this substitute product, which is coffee, having an improved product, or they are selling lower quality goods at a lower price? That is another way of looking into it. Then, barriers of new entrants to the market. If the barrier to enter the market are low, the barrier, what is there? A barrier is like a gate. So if the gate is easy to open, then we say the barrier to enter that market is low, because it's easy for a new business to start selling what other businesses are already selling. Then it is easy for new businesses to enter the market or industry. For example, a lady selling fat cakes. If a lady is selling fat cakes by the corner, it's easy for another lady to start selling fat cakes in the same corner. Why? Because the cost to start that business is not expensive. Is it easy for another business, for instance, to start a bank? Easily, like as in tomorrow, can you start a bank? No, because you need a lot of money to start a bank. But you would need less money to start selling fat cakes. Now, let's proceed. And then we say, in that regard, the business of selling fat cakes has lower barriers, meaning it is easy for new business to enter the market. But the business of offering a banking service has what? Has higher what? Barriers, because it is difficult to start a bank. That is the understanding you should have. If there are few suppliers of a product or service, but many buyers, it might be easy to enter the market. So that can also make it easy to enter a particular market. As we proceed, we have the pestle factors, which is your political, economical, together with social, technological, legal, and environmental. Now let us look into this question where we are talking about Martha and Jane Furniture. Martha and Jane Furniture specializes in selling of furniture. The profitability of the business has decreased due to high inflation rates and low income levels. So let's look into the challenge that Martha and Jane are facing here. The profitability has decreased. What is the reason? Due to high inflation rates and low income levels. And then it says Martha and Jane Furniture had to pay a hefty or a heavy fine because they did not renew their trading license in time. So now, quote challenges for Martha and Jane Furniture from the scenario above to say which challenges did they face. The first challenge is the decrease of the profitability due to number one, inflation rate. Another one was due to low income levels of customers. Then another challenge was they had to pay a heavy fine because they did not renew their trading license on time. Then identify the pestle factors that links to each of the quoted words now challenge. So when you look into the first one is inflation. Inflation is the economic factor. It's an economic factor. But when you look into the levels of income, levels or low levels of income from customers, that one is considered to be a social factor. Then heavy fines because of failing to renew the trading license, that is regarded to be a legal factor. That is a legal factor over there. Then recommend one way in which Martha and Jane Furniture would deal with each of these challenges identified. Let's check now. Yes, the profitability of the business has decreased due to what? High inflation rate, that's correct. And then low income levels of customers, that's another challenge. And then paying heavy fines because they did not renew their trading license, that's another challenge. Then when you look into the factor that links to the challenge, this is a legal one because you cannot operate a business without a trading license. It makes the business not to be legal. Then this is a social one because it's a socio-economic factor to have customers having less money to spend, and then economic factor because profitability has done what? Has decreased due to high inflation rate, meaning the general increase in the prices of goods and services caused by the economic conditions. So how to deal with each when you look into an economic factor? If a business, for instance, would want to borrow money during high inflation, they should borrow money from financial institutions when the interest rates are favorable. That is correct. Then social, a business is suffering because now customers are not having high income levels. Therefore, the business would have to sell substitute or generic products at a lower price so that at least customers can afford to buy those products. And then with regards to failing to comply with the trading license renewal, the business would have to do what? Comply with the legal requirements for operating a business. For example, they need to know when can they renew their license or trademark registration or patents. So that is how they would deal with that. Now we proceed and look into another aspect that may require you to identify from the scenario, which is what? The types of strategies. We have 4 types of strategies. How do we remember them? We call them D. Why am I saying D? D-I-T-I. So if you have your DD in mind, you know you have your 4 types of strategies, which is what? Integration, intensive, diversification, and defensive. So those are your types of strategies. Now let us look into a typical question. You have the following. You have the following for 6 marks. Now let's go about answering these questions. 2.8. Identify the type of business strategy that Suzy Furniture Manufacturer applied in each statement below. Suzy Manufacturer took over Andries Furniture to gain control over the direct distribution of their products. Suzy decided to sell her existing furniture in a new city. Then Suzy Furniture Manufacturer decided to add the food manufacturing plant to increase the what? The sales. Now identify the types of business strategies that Suzy Manufacturer applied in each statement. So let me give you 2 minutes and you choose from the 4 strategies the correct answer. Then I will come back with the solution after the 2 minutes. So let me give you your 2 minutes. Welcome back. Now, let us look into how to go about identifying the types of strategies applicable to Suzy Furniture Manufacturer. Firstly, very, very important in helping you answer questions is to establish in which sector is a business. This business is in the secondary. This business is in the secondary sector. That's where we start. Then 2.8.1 says, Suzy Manufacturer took over Andries Furnitures to gain control over the direct distribution of their products. Suzy decided to sell her existing furniture in a new city. So now, when you look into those aspects, you'll tell here that when they say Suzy decided to sell her existing furniture in a new city, it means Suzy's taking an existing product and selling it to new customers because the new customers will be from the new city. And then we also say Suzy Manufacturer decided to add food manufacturing plant to increase sales. You increase the what? The sales. Now let's go back up to say, what is the answer here? Taking over, took over Andries Furniture to gain control over the direct distribution. Therefore, this should be integration. Integration strategy. Then another one is Susie decided to sell her existing furniture in a new city. So this one is considered to be what? This one is considered to be intensive strategy. This is an intensive strategy. Why? Because you are increasing the sales here. The sales will increase because of new customers. The new customers will be from the new city. Then another one is Susie manufacturer added or decided to add food manufacturing plants to increase sales. So the adding of food plant, remember which sector? Susie is operating in what sector? Secondary sector. But what is Susie manufacturing? Furniture. But in this regard, Susie Furniture manufacturer decides to add a food manufacturing what? Plant. Meaning Susie will be selling furniture and also will be adding food as part of the company. Now, therefore, this is considered to be what? Diversification. Diversification. What do we mean by diversification strategy? This is when a business adds a product that is either related or unrelated to what they are already doing. The business is already manufacturing furniture. So when they decide to add food manufacturing plants, what are they going to be doing there? They'll be adding food, meaning they'll start selling what? Food, which before they were not selling. And food and furniture, are they related? They are not related. Then let's move to the solutions or another type of question. Now the question is different because now we are looking for what? Identify the types of what? Defensive strategies. So let me give you 2 minutes. You try to answer, then I'll come back with the solutions again because I want us to do it practical. Identify the types of defensive strategy for me. The types of defensive strategy. In the other question, we were looking for what? We were looking for the types of strategies where you have 4 options. But in this regard, you have 3 options because you need to identify the types of what? Defensive strategies. So let me give you your 2 minutes. Yeah, I want to call you. What's up, Mitra? Isn't it? Welcome back. Now, identify the types of defensive strategies. Let's look into it. 2.9.1. Mega Construction sold all their assets in order to pay their creditors. When a business sells all their assets to pay their creditors, the business has implemented which type of defensive strategy? It must be liquidation. It must be liquidation. They terminated the employment contract of many employees to reduce their cost. That type of defensive strategy is called retrenchment. Retrenchment. Then, management decided to close their unproductive information communication department, which is what now? This would be applicable to divestiture. This is the type of defensive strategy we would call divestiture. Now, we move. This is now different action verb that we will be looking into. We will now look into content that you need to be able to quote from the scenario. Let's start by looking into the legislations again. Regarding all these legislations, you should know how to quote the following. be in a position to quote ways to comply with all the legislation, and be in a position to provide other ways in which the business could comply with these different legislations. Be in a position to code ways to comply, penalties to non-compliance. Those are aspects that you should know. And maybe to a certain extent, be in a position to know how to code the positives and negatives, because the examiner might decide to quote the positive and explain other positives. So you need to be smart around that. Then, under labor relations, be in a position to quote, or be in a position to know how to quote the employer's rights together with the employee's rights. Under National Credit Act, be in a position to quote the consumer rights according to the National Credit Act. And under skills development, you should know how to define the meaning of learnership. You should know how to explain the roles of SETAs and be in a position to quote them from the scenario, and also be in a position to quote the National Skills Development Strategy and the Human Resource Development Strategy. Thereafter, you should be in a position to know how to quote funding of SETAs. Now, let us look into the first typical exam question, which requires of you to quote from the scenario. The art of quoting comes with the understanding of the content. If you don't understand the content, you might have difficulties regarding quoting. So, Katleho Logistics. Katleho Logistics complies with Labor Relations Act, which is Act 66 of 1995, by observing the rights of employees in the workplace. Employees take part in legal strikes without any fear of victimization. They are also locked out by Katleho Logistics to prevent damages to their property. The trade union representatives are given time off to attend to their respective duties. Now, quote 2 rights of employees in terms of Labor Relations Act. Let's go back to the scenario. Read the scenario with understanding. We are saying this business complies with labor relations. We agree with that. To say they comply by observing the rights of employees. And how do they do it? Employees take part in legal strike without any fear of victimization. They are also locked out by KL. It tells you who's locking them out. KL. Who is KL? Katleho Logistics. Katleho Logistics is the what? The business. Is the business. To prevent the damages to the property. So, let's highlight this one. Now, they are locked out by the business. Is this the employee's right? No, it is not. So, this is not the employee's right. However, one of the employee's rights is that the employee may take part in a legal strike without any fear of victimization. Then the trade union representatives are given time off to attend their respective duties. So this is also part of the employee's right and the idea of allowing employees to participate in a legal strike. But locking the employees out to prevent damages, it is the right of the employer. What is the question looking for? Grade 12 is looking for what? 2 rights of employees. It is not looking for the employers. So hence I've indicated and tried to encircle for you to show you that this is what we call a distractor. The aim is for this sentence to distract you from quoting the second correct employee's right. Because the first one is employees take part in the legal strike without any fear of victimization. And the other one is that the trade union representatives are given time off to attend to their respective duties, which is correct. So this is your solution. Employees take part in a legal strike, correct? And the trade union representatives are given time off to attend to their respective duties. Hence, I'm saying they are also locked out by KL, which is Katleho Logistics, cannot be correct. Why? Because this is the right of the employer. In this regard, who is Katlego Logistics? The business. Therefore, there's no way that this can be quoted as the employee's right, because the aim is to distract you as the learner from quoting, number one, employees taking part in a legal strike, number two, the trade union representatives, given the representatives are the employees of the businesses. So they are the members of the trade union. So they have the right to go and represent other employees. Then, explain other rights of employees in terms of Labor Relations Act. Employees have the right to what? To join a trade union of their choice, to refer unresolved workplace disputes to CCMA, to refer unresolved CCMA disputes to Labor Court on appeal. So number one, they have a right to join the trade union of their choice. That's very short and straight to the point. They have a right to refer unresolved workplace disputes to CCMA, and then they have a right to request trade union representatives to assist or represent employees in a grievance or disciplinary hearing. They have a right to establish workplace forum where a business has 100 or more employees to resolve the work-related issues. Then another one. With this one, I give you the first 2 minutes. You try to quote and avoid the distractor. Then I come back with the solution for you to check if you understood the art of quoting and avoiding the distract. So let me give you your 2 minutes. Welcome back. The instruction is read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. We have Excel Bank EB. Excel Bank offers various financial products to prospective clients. The bank allows clients to receive pre-agreement documentation before concluding any credit transaction. EB ensures that clients shop around for the best price. They also allow clients access and challenge their credit records. Then 2.2.1. By now you should be knowing where is the distractor and what is the correct answer. Where do you quote? Quote two consumer rights in terms of National Credit Act, which is Act 34 of 2005 from the scenario above for 2 months. Now, the idea that the bank allows clients to receive a pre-agreement documentation before concluding any credit transaction, that is one of the consumer rights according to the National Credit Act. So this is correct if you have quoted. EB ensures that their clients shop around for the best price. In whatever financial products they are offering, you are allowed to shop around, decide of the interest rate or the type of loan that they want to offer. So when we check that, do we consider that to be the consumer right according to the National Credit Act? No, because immediately you see shop around, then it talks to the consumer right according to consumer protection. So this is incorrect. It cannot be quoted. This is not the consumer right according to the National Credit Act, but is the consumer right according to CPA, which is Consumer Protection Act. But let's check the last sentence. They allow clients access and to access and challenge credit records. Now, this is the consumer right according to the National Credit Act. So this is correct. Now let's check. The bank allows clients pre-agreement documentations before concluding credit transaction. The bank also allows clients to access and challenge their credit records. So then this is considered to be 2 marks. And where is the distractor? EB ensuring this is the distractor. This is the distractor, as I said, but this is correct and this is correct. Now we say, explain other consumer rights in terms of National Credit Act. Consumers have the right to apply for credit and to be free from discrimination. They have the right to obtain reasons for credit being refused by the credit provider. Consumers have a right to receive protection from their personal information because consumers would use their personal information to apply for credit. Also, consumers have the right to receive information in plain and understandable language, and they also have the right to receive documents as required by the Act And also, consumers have the right to apply for debt review or debt cancelling if consumers cannot afford to repay their debts. And also is also applicable as a consumer right according to the National Credit Act is that consumers have the right to refuse credit limit increase. Then we look into business strategy. Here you should know how to code the strategic evaluation process together with the strategic management process. Now let us look into a typical exam question on that. Again, it will focus on code. It will focus on what? Code. So let's check. Code 2 steps in strategic evaluation from the scenario above and advise the management of OS on steps in strategy evaluation. So we have Onnit Stationery OS. Onnit Stationery implemented the diversification strategy to increase the market share. OS looked forward and backward into the implementation process, and then OS identified strengths and weaknesses by conducting environmental scanning. Then another one is OS identified deviations from set standards and took corrective action. Now, code 2 steps in strategy evaluation from the scenario above and advise the management of OS on other steps in strategy evaluation. So now, when you look into this scenario, grade 12s, you will realize that the idea that OS looked forward and backward into the implementation makes it correct. It makes it one of the steps in strategy evaluation. But when we look into OS identifying strengths and weaknesses by conducting environmental scanning, that is actually a distractor because this is part of what strategic management process. Therefore, you should not quote that, but you should rather quote this one here because this is part of the strategy evaluation when we say OS identified deviations from set standards and took corrective action. So this is also correct for 2 marks. So let's check if we are correct with that analysis. Yes, OS looked forward and backward. That's correct. Then another one, OS took or identified deviations from set standards. Then we look into what? We look into the other strategic management or strategy evaluation processes. Examine the underlying basis of the strategy. Set specific dates for control and follow-ups. Another one, draw up a table of advantages and disadvantages of a strategy. Then another one is decide on the desired outcome. Then another one is consider the impact of the strategic implementation in the internal and external environment of the business. That should be considered to be steps in strategy evaluation. Then, as we proceed, we look into business sectors and their environments. Business sectors and their environments. And these are the typical 3, 9 marks or 6 marks that you should take advantage of. We have Zalo Enterprise, and we have these 3 questions that we should be able to answer. Zalo Enterprise sells variety of products to different customers. Now, ZE always receives stock late from Smart Wholesaler, and the management of ZE has difficulty in dealing with unproductive employees. Now, quote 2 challenges from ZE from the scenario above. Let's quote those challenges. ZE receives stock late from Smart Wholesalers. That's challenge number 1. Number 2, the management of ZE has difficulty in dealing with unproductive employees. And then another one is state the extent of control that ZE has over each business environment classified. So, when we go about it, we say quote. This is how you should quote. These are the first 2 challenges. ZE always receives stock late from Smart Wholesaler, and the management of ZE has difficulty in dealing with unproductive employees. So that's one. Then we go to what now? The business environment that is applicable. ZE always receives stock late from Smart Wholesaler. From what? Smart Wholesaler. So regarding that, we look into it and say they are receiving stock late. So which environment? Is the market environment, because a supplier is a component of the market environment. Then we look into the management of ZE has difficulty in dealing with unproductive employees. Employees are inside the business. Therefore, this is your what? micro environment. Then we have classified the business environments. What do we do now? We explain now. We state the extent of control. To say the business has less, here it has what? Less control over the market environment. And when we look into micro environment, which is the inside of the business has full control over that business environment. And then, with that being said, we now look into the summary of our lesson, where we looked into the structure of the paper, we looked into the main topics, and also looked into the interpretation or interpreted section B and section C to say how should we go about interpreting that for the business environment. And we also looked into the legislations to say how should we go about answering them regarding the action verb we say is identify and how to code from the scenario. We also looked into the business strategy to say we have the strategic management process, which can be used as a distractor to strategic evaluation, or the steps in strategy evaluation, which can be used as a distractor for a strategic management process, how to identify the Porter's 5, how to identify the pestle factors from the scenario, and we looked into how to identify steps in business strategy as well. Then we further looked into the specific business industry analysis tools, your SWOT analysis together with the Porter's 5 forces and your pestle elements. And then we looked into the types of strategies where I said remember them by using the name DD, because you have defensive and integration and diversification and intensive to help you remember those. And then we also dealt with the business sectors, where we looked into how to code the challenges, how to classify the environments, then how to state the extent of control. And the revision for the next lesson will be on business operations, and we'll be looking into how to deal with human resources and how to deal with quality of performance. And thank you. This is the end of the lesson. And with that being said, make sure you study. And as you study, you know you will shoot high. Remember, we don't end the race when we are tired, but we end the race when we are done. So please finish the race successfully. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Keep well. Goodbye.